All right. We did not have time to put this in the show this week. We had a lot of food talk.
We did. We had to get that food talk in, but also just talk about the Super Bowl in general, halftime shows, all that stuff. So this is our chance to talk about previous Super Bowls that I wanted to fit in the show, but hey, we're gonna do it on YouTube and Facebook and all those places. A little bit of an extra.
We have a tier list here.
Yes.
The Super Bowl games itself, last 10 years, so Super Bowl 50 to 59. Just real quick, Super Bowl 50, Broncos won against, that was Peyton Manning's last game. That was against Cam Newton in Carolina, where Cam Newton did not reach for the fumble.
Yep. I think the person you can say that had the most impact on the game was Von Miller.
Yep.
The game wasn't...
The defense carried Peyton Manning that year.
It did, and really, that was the story of that whole season. I remember that kind of, because at that point, they took him out to bring in Brock Osweiler, I believe, for a period of time. I think that was him. And then Peyton took over right before the playoffs started and barely got them the rest of the way. Super Bowl, it wasn't anything crazy. It wasn't like a back and forth game. Like we said, the defense kind of carried it. Where are you thinking on this list?
Super Bowl 50. I mean, that was the right way, even though the defense carried him. That was the right way for Peyton Manning to go out.
It's very satisfying. It's just the game didn't live up to expectations, I guess.
No. And that was also the one opportunity for Superman Cam Newton at the time to get his Super Bowl.
Yeah. That could have changed his whole career.
It could have. It probably would have. I'm thinking, so it's what, S?
It's S, A, B, C, D, and then F. I'm thinking, in my eyes, it's a C because I feel like the game was probably C level or maybe even a little bit worse. But, you could maybe put it B just because of what the game represented, it being Manning's final game and his 200th win. So it's like you could put that in there. So I would say B or C.
I would go with C.
C? I'm good with that.
All right, Super Bowl 51.
This is a big one.
The historic 28-3 comeback by New England. James White barely reached over the goal line, won in an overtime, 34-28. I have to go with either S or A on this.
It's the only no doubt S for sure. There probably is another one on there, but for me, it's the greatest comeback in the history of sports in a single game. We've never seen anything like that before. Most legendary of Tom Brady's games. Yeah, to me, that has to be S. That Edelman catch, and just that whole game, all the circumstances that had to happen, it was crazy.
Super Bowl 52, Nick Foles and the Eagles. The story of Nick Foles beating New England 41-33, including the Philly special play.
And this was the other one I was thinking of. If you wanted to put it in an S, you could. Obviously, I was rooting for the Patriots. I wasn't as happy with the conclusion of this game, but it's a legendary game. So I'm good with it being in the S, maybe after. I think nothing's going to beat that 28-3 comeback in 51. So it'd be after it, or we'd put it in A. I
would put it in S after 51.
I'm good with that.
So 52.
Back to back.
Super Bowl 53, New England in a low-scoring affair, 13-3.
People hated this game.
Beating the LA Rams.
I really liked this game, and I know a lot of people hated it.
I did too. But I would say it's either low A or B.
Oh my gosh, I did not think you were going to go that high. So there's a lot of people I've talked to that some people say it's the worst Super Bowl they've ever seen. I definitely don't believe that, only because you've had these big blowout Super Bowls that those aren't fun to watch. I'd much rather have a close defensive game. I'm okay with putting it into B. I think a lot of people would put it C lower. I would be okay with B because it was if you like defense, and not tons of people do, if you like defense, that was the game to watch. And two high-octane offenses that got stopped by good defenses. Let's go B. A lot of people are going to be upset about that, but...
Okay, Super Bowl 54. This was the beginning of the run of the Kansas City Chiefs, 31-20 at Hard Rock Stadium against the Niners. I don't, to be honest with you, I mean, of course I watched it, but it's not one of those Super Bowls that like sticks out
Really?
to me.
This one does, and I think it's, it was
Compared to the other ones we have on the list.
Yeah, it was Mahomes' crowning moment at the time, kind of not really, kind of his coming out party, I guess, a little bit because he finally got to a Super Bowl and they had to come from behind. They were down, I think, 2 scores in that fourth quarter, and they were able to come from behind, and then they iced it with, can't remember that running back's name, but they had that undrafted running back that ran it for a touchdown at the very end, kind of iced the thing. But I felt like that game was very, very good. I'd put it in A, but I'm curious what you're thinking of where to put it. Because I know for you,
either
it might not be
A or B, because a couple of these ones coming up I would put
above it.
in A.
Let's put it at the top of B. Let's put it at the top of B.
Okay, so this is Super Bowl 54, 54, 53 underneath it. All right, Super Bowl 55, Tom Brady's 7th Super Bowl ring, the one with Tampa at Raymond James Stadium. They blew out Mahomes and the Chiefs, really. That wasn't a game at all, 31-9. Antonio Brown even got a ring.
Got a tutty. Brown, I think, got a tutty. Gronk got 2 tutties.
Brown,
yeah.
and Tom Brady.
The
CTE team.
That's right. This was during COVID. This was a weird Super Bowl to watch in a weird time. And it was a blowout, so you're not going to put it super high, but it was the final Brady moment. So I'm a big fan of it, but I think this has to be C. It's a blowout in the Super Bowl.
I'm going to put it under Super Bowl 50 in C.
Yes, because I think Super Bowl 50 was at least a close game. This wasn't a terrible game, especially if you're a Bucs fan. It was the first home team to ever win in their home stadium, so that was really cool. But yeah, even though it was a big moment for Tom Brady, I'm thinking C as well.
All right, Super Bowl 56. This was February 13th, 2022. At L.A., SoFi Stadium,
Yep.
the Rams beating Joe Burrow and the Bengals 23-20. Aaron Donald's last game went out as a champion. This was a great game.
Stafford finally got his ring. You had, great season from Cooper Kupp and all those guys and a really good Bengals offense. But, LA's defense really showed out in that game, and that's how they got the win. That last stand with Donald.
I mean, that was a great game.
It was. I believe it's an A as well. I think that was a really good game. It's not quite S tier, but again, came down to the final play, and the defense made a stand, and it was an exciting game, and it was cool too because it's like the Rams hadn't been to a Super Bowl since I think 2000 or 2001,
greatest
or 2,
show
something
on
like
turf.
that. Yeah, when they lost to the Patriots, that was the last time they were there. Or no, I'm sorry. The last time they were there was against the Patriots when they lost in that low-scoring game. But still, it was Stafford getting there, Donald getting back, trying to win this championship, especially if he knew that was probably it for him. And it had been forever since the Bengals were in there, so it was cool to see those two teams.
Super Bowl 57. This was a rematch with Kansas City and Philly, which it would end up being the first of a rematch in a couple years. We'll get to that. Super Bowl 57, 38-35 in Glendale, Kansas City by 3 over Philly. That came down to a field goal late.
Yeah, and I think this was the Super Bowl that before that happened, it was a flag that was called on a PI, and that's what got them down to kick that field goal.
Being Kansas City at the time, everybody was like, it's a PI, and Kansas City's going to win now.
But that game was very good. That game was great.
I would put it in A under 56 with Rams Bengals.
Yeah, I'm good with that. It was still a very fun Super Bowl to watch.
All right, Super Bowl 58, Kansas City looking to go back-to-back. Overtime with the Niners in Vegas. Niners had the lead by 3. They got a field goal in overtime. They took the lead. Mahomes got it all the way down there. Wide open touchdown pass for the win. 25-22 in overtime to win back-to-back. Yeah. Another fantastic game.
It was a very good game, a little bit low scoring compared to the other ones, but it was a really fun game to watch. McCole Hardman getting that catch at the end, and a lot of people talking about San Fran messed up on the coin toss, and it could have messed up their Super Bowl chances. So it was kind of a weird note to end on, but
Because the
again,
Niners had already lost to Kansas City in Mahomes' first Super Bowl.
different quarterback. So you're going between Purdy. That first one was Garoppolo. This one was Purdy. So it's a little different there. But a lot of the team was still the same. That first Super Bowl, they didn't have McCaffrey. This one they did. So it's like so much better than that first team, and still couldn't get the win. But it was very close. So I would still put it in A. I would say maybe top of B. What are you thinking?
Either bottom of A or somewhere in B. I mean, overtime in the Super Bowl.
It's only the second time that ever happened. Yeah, first time was against the the Patriots and the Falcons.
I would say bottom of A.
Yeah, I'm good with that. It was you still got an overtime game. It was still fun to watch.
And finally, Super Bowl 59. Kansas City looking to have the first ever three-peat, taking on Philly. Philly, lost in the Super Bowl 2 years before that to Kansas City on the field goal, 38-35. Is Jalen Hurts legit? Can this team get back to where they were? Or is Kansas City going to do it again and win 3 in a row? Great storyline. And even though Philly only won by 18, 40-22, that game did not feel like that. It was a blowout the whole way, and I was just glad that Kansas City's three-peat didn't happen. It was a great win for Philly. I'm going to put it in A. I know the score didn't indicate it, but...
We're going to debate this because I have the opposite. I think that's the worst game on our list so far. It's not just because at the time I was rooting for Kansas City. It's not just that. It's when I go to a Super Bowl, I want the game to be fun and I want everybody to be engaged in watching it. This game was over in the first half. It really was. And I feel like everybody kind of tuned out at a certain point. And a lot of the other games
you had it on the TV, but you were doing something else.
Yeah, and it was kind of just like, it was almost like laughing at like, oh my gosh, they're just steamrolling them. But it wasn't captivating as the other games. Even that Broncos-Panthers game, Super Bowl 50, it was still close, still came down to the end. This game just wasn't even close from the start. So I put it on that same tier as the Tampa Bay game, but I bump up that Tampa Bay game a little bit more just because it was Brady. And that's a huge story to have Tom Brady. Can he do it without Belichick? All those storylines, and they beat the better version of that Kansas City team was great. They had some offensive line problems, but a lot better than this last Kansas City team. So I don't know. That's kind of my thing.
I would be okay with putting it in C.
Put it in C? That's fair.
Low C.
Yeah. And I wouldn't, we haven't had a game that I would truly believe would be a D or an F. I kind of knew going into this we probably wouldn't use those tiers. And here's to hoping that this year is not that year.
So I know we started with Denver and Carolina, but even you can include it before that. Just a couple of your favorite Super Bowls, just top tier of all time. I'm just throwing this.
This could be
out
any
there.
any year.
Not 50 and newer.
Yeah. 50, and I will say this, I know we already talked about this, but 51's probably my favorite of all time. That was an unbelievable Super Bowl. We'll say, just because I grew up watching these, Saints-Patriots, I think that was Super Bowl 44. Or Saints-Colts, I'm sorry.
Saints-Colts, 31-17.
Yeah, what Super Bowl was that? I can't remember.
That was Super Bowl 50, 49, 48, 47, 45.
45. That one was really, really good. That was the onside kick to start the second half, and it was the Saints finally winning a championship. That was a great Super Bowl. Even though it was raining like crazy, Bears-Colts was an interesting Super Bowl. There was a lot of mistakes because the rain was getting so bad. The Super Bowl between the Steelers and the Cardinals, that was an unbelievable Super Bowl.
27-23, the Santonio Holmes tiptoe catch.
That was a phenomenal Super Bowl, those plays that happened in it. So we've been lucky.
John Madden's last game as a commentator.
Yes, him and Al Michaels, that's right. So in the years of, from 40 to 49, we had some really, really good Super Bowls in there. I don't remember them too much before that. I still remember like Patriots and Panthers and Patriots Eagles and those games, but nothing.
So
like
the one
that
right
run.
before 50 was Malcolm Butler interception.
Yep. Which that was an amazing game.
Which the year before that, Seattle blew out Peyton Manning 43-8. Ravens Niners, the Harbaugh.
That was a great,
the lights
great Super
went
Bowl.
out.
That was a great.
And some people have a conspiracy theory with that, and they think with the light situation that like changed the game for the Ravens.
It did, because that second half started with wasn't it it was
Jacoby Jones. Rest in peace.
I'm fairly certain Jacoby Jones is related to John Jones. I'm pretty sure they're brothers.
Wow,
could be wrong.
really?
I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure they are. So that Super Bowl was amazing, and then you see that turn after the lights went off, and that whole storyline was good.
2008, the Patriots had the perfect season. They get to the Super Bowl, lose to Eli and the Giants 17-14. David Tyree helmet catch.
Can't believe I forgot about that. That is one of those Super Bowls that like made me a football fan for life.
Yes.
Because that was before I got into Tom Brady, and I didn't want a team to go undefeated, so I just was like, I'll root for the Giants because I knew who Eli Manning was. And that was the game. That was the game if you were going to root for them to watch. And then the rematch that they had a little bit later with the Mario Manningham catch.
21-17, 2012.
Yeah, both of those Eli Manning Super Bowls were awesome.
Just a couple other ones here. 2011 Super Bowl XLV. That was not just being biased.
Yeah, I know. I knew this was happening.
But it was a great game.
Yeah.
Green Bay, Pittsburgh, 31-25. Yeah. Aaron Rodgers got his Super Bowl. And unfortunately, that wasn't even the best Packers team in Aaron Rodgers' time there. By far, not even his best team.
Remember Woodson got hurt in that game? If you remember that?
Yes, Charles Woodson got hurt.
But that was a great game as well. Again, like that run in
the iconic picture of Rodgers with the belt on after the game and Clay Matthews
had the world heavyweight title. That was pretty sick. Yeah. So we were very lucky during that time. It was a good time to grow up watching football, getting that nice run of championship games.
2000.
Yes.
St. Louis Rams, Titans trying to reach over the goal line short by less than a yard, probably.
Dyson making that reach and just couldn't get it. The NFL films footage is so good. Yeah, the NFL with Dick Vermeil putting his hands up and being like, we won the Super Bowl, like, coming down to that play in that situation, crazy. That was one of the closest games until we get like the overtime games later. I mean, that was literally a yard short, And Patriots, I will just say this before you mention that one. The Patriots, either a year, I think 2 years after that, the Patriots upset over the Greatest Show on Turf. Mentioned that a little bit earlier. Nobody gave the Patriots a chance.
Patriots in 2002, 20-17 over the Rams. Adam Vinatieri field goal.
Yep. And if you're talking about the history of Super Bowls, you talk about Vinatieri a lot because he's mentioned a lot in there.
1998, the year before that, the Packers had beat the Patriots 35-21. Desmond Howard was the MVP for a special teams return for touchdowns performance. The year after that,
this next
Green
Super
Bay
Bowl is amazing.
And Brett Favre try to go back-to-back. The famous dive by Elway gets hit. It was like a helicopter spin, and the Broncos win 31-24.
That was a great... I actually recently rewatched that game because they uploaded it to NFL's YouTube channel, like their NFL Vault. And I recently watched that entire game, and man, that game was so good. It had the storylines of, and it's funny to think now because Brett Favre's been around for so long, but it was just like this brand new quarterback, reminded me a lot of Mahomes, going up against a veteran that has not won. And it's like, are we going to see continued greatness, or are we going to see this quarterback that has always been that guy finally win a title? It had awesome storylines on it. I loved that game.
And that 97 team, when Green Bay beat New England, I have a signed helmet at home in a glass case. It's got Brett Favre, Andre Rison, wide receiver.
Oh, he made a big catch in that game.
And Desmond Howard on one helmet.
That's sick. That's a good.
And I am going to hang on to that for the rest of my life.
You should.
Unless if I need money at some point.
Oh, gosh.
Let's see. just looking back here, the run where the Bills made 4 straight Super Bowls,
Heartbreaking.
91 to 94, and they lost every single
And
one.
At
And
least 2 of them were blowouts.
Yeah, 91, they lost by 1, 20 to 19 to the Giants. 92, they lost to the Redskins, 37-24. 93, they got killed by the Cowboys, 52-17. Cowboys lost to them again in 94.
Mm-hmm.
And in the Battle of California in 95, Niners beat the Chargers.
Yeah. And obviously, we're not going to go so far back, but a couple of like those early Steelers-Cowboys Super Bowls were very important for the NFL. So got to just throw those in there because those were the 2 best teams of those decades going up against each other. And so that was huge to see those.
Yeah, from 1975 and 6, the Steelers won back-to-back. You talk about early. They beat the Vikings, and then they beat the Cowboys.
The original TB12.
Yep. And then they beat the Cowboys in 79, won in 80 against the Rams.
Yep.
So Super Bowl at the Pontiac Silverdome in 82, the Niners beat the Bengals.
Yeah.
26-21.
And speaking of Detroit, we didn't mention Super Bowl 40. That was the Seahawks against the Steelers. That was the Hines Ward threw a touchdown in that game.
21-10 at Ford Field.
Yep. So that was another one like growing up that everybody had to watch because it was in Detroit, and that was a great game.
Green Bay won the first 2 Super Bowls, and that was coming off of where Green Bay was winning a bunch of championships before it was called the Super Bowl. Green Bay and Lombardi, that great run in the 50s and the 60s. 1967, Green Bay wins Super Bowl 1 over Kansas City, 35-10.
And that was, I think, both of those first 2, because I'm pretty sure the Raiders were the second game.
Green Bay beat the Raiders in Super Bowl 2.
I think at that point, it was, we're just proving that the NFL is better and more advanced than the AFL at the time, which was true. And then the 3rd Super Bowl happened, and that was
famous fur coat, Joe Namath. 16-7 over the Baltimore Colts.
And that was the coming out party for the AFL, because it was just like, all right, the AFL now, known as the AFC, it was like, this team is this league is viable. They can compete with the NFL, and then that's essentially what led to the merger of the 2 leagues, and then now we have the NFL, so today with the 2 conferences. So.
And then after the Colts lost to the Jets 2 years later, 71, Super Bowl 5, they would beat the Cowboys 16-13, and then the Cowboys would beat the Dolphins the next year. And by the way, the Dolphins
undefeated season,
perfect season in 74
only time
or 73.
That's ever happened.
They won back-to-back. They lost to the Cowboys in the 72 Super Bowl, and then they won back-to-back, beating the Redskins and the Vikings.
Yeah.
And people forget the Vikings have made a bunch of Super Bowls, too.
They've made a few, yeah.
They made it 3 of 4 years, 74-77.
And I think those were the purple people eater years, so they had a super dominant defensive line during that time. So, football...
They just ran into Terry Bradshaw and the perfect Miami team.
Football history is something I've always enjoyed. I haven't gotten into it as much as baseball history, but I've been to the Football Hall of Fame multiple times. I love watching all the documentaries, so it's fun to look at how the NFL has advanced, because when you look at those first few Super Bowls and then you fast forward to like Super Bowl 50 or something like that and just see how the game has changed.
And I mean that, and for the league to, because I remember going back and watching like these documentaries and these pieces on it, the AFL, obviously it was separate things. They had their own TV channel they were on. There was only like 3 or 4 channels at the time, but, they had that. And then they had their championship. And then Green Bay was it was them and the Cowboys in the NFL. 1967, the Ice Bowl. The winner went to Super Bowl 1.
That's one of the greatest games ever played.
Yes.
And really good documentary on Vince Lombardi on A Football Life. I know you have got to have seen
I have seen that several times.
They cover that a lot in there. And,
which it says at the beginning, the intro, part 1, but I've never been able to find part 2.
I think it's only been that one, because it ends with him passing away and like they wrap up everything. So I think that's the whole piece of it. But
by the way, really quick, not to go on and on about the way back, history, but Green Bay Packers YouTube channel, it's really interesting. They have a 10-part series. Kevin Harlan is the narrator on it, by the way, because his dad used to be the CEO and president of the team way back. 10-part. It goes through all the decades of Packer history,
that's cool.
starting in like the 1910s and 20s, first starting as a backyard football team. And then the 20s and 30s and 40s where they weren't good. And then the 50s, Vince Lombardi comes in. After he leaves, they're terrible for years. And then on to here we are today. 10-part, hour-long each, by the way.
I think this is said in A Football Life at the very beginning, but I don't know if you remember this, where Vince Lombardi told his kids, hey, I got a job. We're going to move to Green Bay.
Yes.
And the kids
his daughter opens up the video with, we're moving to Green Bay, Wisconsin.
And he
what?
She was like, I don't know where that's at. So he grabbed a map and he opened up the map and he's looking on the map of Wisconsin, and Green Bay was not on the map. So he couldn't even show him. And he said, by the time I'm done here, it will be on the map. And it is. It's a badass moment in my eyes. It's so cool. And this is coming from a diehard Packer hater. I'm appreciative of the history, so I'm super into that. But,
and Green Bay is still the best
root for him.
Franchise in football history. I mean, even before the Super Bowls, that still counts as a part of the history. 13-time champion, including Super Bowls.
Yeah.
Either him or Lombardi or Belichick is the best coach ever, 1A and 1B.
Right. If you're gonna talk about the history of the NFL, obviously the Packers have to be there. But if you're talking about modern NFL, it's the Patriots. And we mentioned quite a few Super Bowls that they're in. And it was getting almost comedic towards the end of that Patriots run where it's just like, oh my gosh, they're going to be back. Like, they're going to do it again. And it was just when people kept counting them out, being like, Brady's done. They aren't going to do it this year. They start off 0-3, whatever. They're not going to do it.
He gets suspended. Garoppolo was the quarterback.
And then they get back again and they win again. Crazy. Well, this was fun doing this little tier list and then also looking back at some of the previous Super Bowls. I'm always down to talk about the history of that
NFL
stuff.
Vault, that YouTube channel, they have a bunch of old games and highlights on there.
Yeah.
Because you can go back. I've watched Super Bowl I before, and it's just funny to see where we are today in television and the media side of it to back then. Welcome to Super Bowl I in living color on CBS.
What's interesting about
Super
Bowl I is that they don't have an actual dedicated, like, here's the full broadcast, and they kept it, and they're able to show it. They have to piece together like 4 or 5 different, they did this like maybe 10 or 15 years ago. They had to piece together all the different broadcasts to be able to make that one Super Bowl I film that we're watching now. So that's not even the real broadcast. That's why you get a lot of cuts to like NFL Films footage and stuff like that, because they don't have the whole game. I think pretty soon
because
after
it was
that,
weird at the time. One network did the first half or part of the game, and another
networks. That's right.
It was weird.
Yeah, and it wasn't a sellout.
Could you imagine if they did that? All the different streaming services now. The first quarter will be on Peacock. The second quarter will be on
careful,
Fox.
That might happen in the future. That might actually happen.
The Super Bowl will have 4 different quarters on 4 different networks.
Get out of here.
But no, it's like ABC did part of the game. So then they had that footage on there, and then NFL Films in between, and then it's like CBS, Jack Buck doing part of the game. And they even had different announcers for different parts of the games.
So weird.
And it's just weird.
Yeah.
Then it's like Super Bowl II, and the rest, it's regular.
Yeah, they just weren't able, in testing things out, but also didn't have that hindsight that this is a big deal, that we got to hold on to this stuff, that it was kind of just like, either they lost the tapes or was taped over or something like that, but at least they were able to piece everything together, and we still have a film of Super Bowl I to still go and watch that.
So it's just, I do love the history, too.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Going back and
that's why you got to go to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. It's
I know.
really cool to go around there and experience all that stuff.
I'd love one day a podcast trip.
Oh, dude, we could totally do
to
that.
The Hall of Fame.
We could totally do
if
that.
we get clearance.
Yeah.
We get the loopholes figured out.
Figure out filming rules and stuff like that, but to be able to walk around and look at that stuff and kind of make a show out of it, I think that'd be a fun thing, especially if you're into football
summertime
history
where there's just golf and baseball.
Yeah,
you know,
that'd be a fun segment.
Absolutely.
Like
so, we had a lot of fun doing this.
Yes.
So didn't have time to put it in the show, but
no, especially because this is like 30 minutes of us talking about this, so our show would have been 2 hours today. So,
but we do appreciate you hanging out with us in this extra segment. So, of course, follow us on Facebook too. If you didn't see our food segment, we always have to mention food in every episode.
Always got to.
So, all right, that's going to do it for this, and looking forward to the Super Bowl on Sunday.